before Zenitsu could react or even reach out to you, he found himself in a new place. It was a train wagon. "Nezuko, it worked!" your voice said with joy and relief. As Zenitsu adjusted his eyes to the new environment, his head ached and felt like spinning. Probably because he was brought out of a dream so abruptly. The brown-eyed boy felt himself being embraced by Nezuko and you, hugging back and adding a few pats on the back. "I'm sorry I worried you too." Zenitsu smiled sadly, sighing softly. You broke the hug not long after, looking at Zenitsu. "Are you alright? Was the dream strange in some way? Did you see a kid?" "Huh?" Zenitsu blinked, perplexed. "Here, so you can tie the kids together once I break Cocoon and the others free from the demon's technique," you said as you handed Zenitsu your sash. Said boy looking at the piece of cloth, perplexed. "I think the demon was planning to kill you in your dreams by using these children. Reason why I ask you is that's why I asked you if you saw a kid in your dream." Wait, Yin-chan, give me a moment to process all this." Zenitsu sighed with a small whine, holding his head with one hand and his eyes closed. "I feel like my head is spinning. I'm even about to throw up." "Have some medicine," you said, shoving a pill inside Zenitsu's mouth, and the boy quickly swallowed the small medicinal item. He gagged softly, waiting for the pill to take effect. Of course, it didn't let him do so. "We don't have any time to waste. Now we know this works. We gotta wake the others up." "I don't remember seeing a kid in my dream. I only saw you," Zenitsu replied, half confusion. Despite having been given medicine, the nausea and feeling of sudden awakening was still lingering. "Huh?" you breathed out, trying to make out a concrete explanation. How could the demon make someone die when killing a person in their dreams? Do injuries in a dream affect the real body? Or is there another way? Just what in the world is this demon planning? You sighed in defeat, holding your head for a second before facing Nezuko. "Should we wake the passengers as well? Though they don't seem disturbed and they have no children tied to them, maybe they'll be all right." Nezuko flailed her arms around, humming, to which you nodded. "True, they seem quite peaceful. Maybe let's let the passengers be." As you kept on pondering observations, the blonde boy's eyes fixed on Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Kojiro, who were tied to one kid each by their wrists. Zenitsu couldn't help but stare at the redhead, sleeping simply, with a deep hatred and bloodlust written in the brown-colored eyes. It was the perfect chance to get rid of Tanjiro once and for all, for he was in a vulnerable state. Vulnerable. Completely harmless. Zenitsu's hand softly moved towards Tanjiro, trembling greatly as he stared at Tanjiro with a sick and dark look. Maybe if he made it silent and quick, you wouldn't notice. "Zenitsu, please tie the kids together. Nezuko and I will do the rest," you called, suddenly back facing Zenitsu. You looked at Nezuko. "Try not to use too much blood. I don't want you to risk your life. Tell me whenever you start feeling dizzy." Zenitsu paid no heed to your words. Instead, he kept glaring at still. After a few minutes of no movement, the blonde boy, you turned to look at him and called for him. "Zenitsu, do you really have to wake him up?" Zenitsu said almost in a mumble, eyes still fixed on the boy with the Hanafu earring, sorry. "Is he really that necessary? Won't he be a burden instead of help?" "Zenitsu, whether or not you like him or not, I'm waking him up, as well as Cocoon and Inosuke." You spoke directly. We're talking about lives at stake here. Personal matters have nothing to do in this mission, so please put them aside. "I do put them aside, but what about him?" Zenitsu retorted, gesturing a hand towards Tanjiro. "Will Tanjiro be okay with fighting alongside Rengoku, considering he threw one heck of a tantrum when you broke up with him?" Oh, Zenitsu's words did have truth in them. Nonetheless, Leaving him under the demon's influence is not an option. You spoke out of your thoughts. Zenitsu hesitantly agreed, sighing as he walked towards your side and helped you carry the kids and tying them together with your sash. The first one to wake up Kojiro, who you engulfed in a hug as soon as his eyes opened. Cocoon. Yandere. Kojiro spoke with an enduring yet alert tone. Once again he returned his gesture gladly, although he had little to no contact to the situation. I feel truly ashamed for falling for a demon's trick so easily. Are you all right? Yes, I am. Don't worry. You giggled, breaking the hug, and soon he did as well. Glad to see you're all right as well. Where are we? What happened? Where's Kaika? Yes, that was Inosuke, who got up from his seat in a single moment and began to look around in high alert. His masked eyes were fixed on Kojiro, pointing at the flame pillar. You! What did you do to Michiro and I? It was the demon, Inosuke, you exclaimed, easing the boar boy down a little. The demon trapped us in a happy dream, so we would offer no restriction while being killed. Now that's fucked up, Inosuke said, enraged, shaking his swords out in a swift movement. Let's go put that fucker in sleep. It'll never wake up from. The pillars are already taking care of it, don't worry. You spoke, to which Kojiro looked at you startled. You called the pillars here? You think I was going to risk my chances and have you get injured? You scoffed at your lover before crossing your arms and looking at everyone else. I have a plan in mind, but I need everyone else's opinion. Our priority right now are the passengers and lesser threats, so... Take me back. A dull, weak, and depressing voice spoke. It was soft, yet audible, enough for everyone who was awake in the train to bear hear to it. It was Tanjiro. He was sitting on one of the many seats, head hung low and hair covering his eyes. Huh? Inosuke hummed, tilting his head in confusion. Take me back, Tanjiro repeated, although his tone remained soft and helpless. You made out what he said. Please, take me back. What do you mean by that? You want to be living in a fantasy world instead of facing reality? Are you that much of a coward? That afraid of your life? You asked in great disappointment and dim hint of anger, walking towards Tanjiro. The boy with Hanafu earrings lifted his head, giving you the most sad, heartbroken, miserable, and dead look you have ever seen anyone make. He was definitely gone. The kind, cheery, honest, and pure Tanjiro was gone for good, with no sign of returning. At least I'm happy in that dream with you. We were happy, Tanjiro retorted, voice breaking as soon as he stood up, taking you aback and having you back off a little. This alerted Kojiro and Zenitsu. Inosuke was already on high alert when he heard Tanjiro speak. You expect me to team up with your new lover and pretend nothing happened? Do you think I would be fine after that? Don't you take my feelings into consideration? Yin. Silence. The only sound in the room were Tanjiro's heavy heaves and pants as he looked at you with crazed sadness. You looked at him, startled, yet quickly regaining your composure, and frowned at his words, giving him a cold gaze. You're right. You can't fight with us. Leave. Tanjiro's anger quickly dimmed down as he heard those words. His eyes suddenly began to let out tears as he stared at you with helpless and fear. Again, as you said, I am taking your consideration into thought. Therefore, since you're not capable of thinking straight at this moment, it's better for you to leave. You cut him off, taking a step forward as he flinched and backed away. You'll put the mission and the lives of many in danger if you stay here. You can't. That's an order. And that was the finishing blow for Tanjiro. It was clear now that you saw him as a cherished person, courteous person, no more. Not even a friend, nor perhaps an acquaintance. I'm not repeating myself. As all you said before turning around in a single movement and making your way back towards Zenitsu, Inosuke, Kojiro, and Nezuko. I need to know who will aid us in battle so I can create a plan where everyone proves useful, you said, looking at the small group of slayers and demon. I'll have your back anytime, yandere, Kojiro proudly announced. Count us in. Zenitsu nodded defensively, Nezuko humming in a cheerful agreement. Don't worry, Sky Goddess. I, the great Inosuke, King of the Mountains, will help you in this mission, Inosuke claimed proudly, pumping his chest heftily as steam came out of his masked snout. Sky, a what? Zenitsu cringed. That dog boy is funny, Kojiro laughed. Kokun, he's not a dog. You sighed slightly, sweat dropping. You then clasped your hands twice, changing the subjects. We have to find the rest of the pillars and help them defeat the demon, wherever it is. But as we start before, these people are a priority, Kojiro added. True, who knows if the demon is also planning on killing them, Zenitsu added. But they're not tied to any kids unlike you guys were, you retorted, and having the passengers awake doesn't seem like a good idea. Not only do they quickly give to panic, but also none of them must know about the demons and demon slayers. In that case, how about some of us keep guard and watch over the passengers if things go wrong? Zane suggested. The rest can go aid the pillars. Sounds good, Kojiro nodded. Yandere, and I will head to the pillars and take care of the passengers in case lesser demons appear. The way Kojiro said it sounded hurtful in your point of view. But to Zenitsu and Inosuke, those words were pure mockery and hatred. Disdain. Evil. But we need Inosuke's sensing abilities to locate the demon more precisely, he retorted. Besides, you're staying here. I'm not letting you get hurt. Don't want to, Kojiro shouted proudly. We're not discussing this, you said with slight anger in your tone. This entire mission is to protect you. Yin-chan, not to be mean, but... Zenitsu awkwardly spoke. You're acting like Tanjiro right now. After horrible shock-like feelings engulfing you for a second time in less than 3 days. If there was one thing you ever hated more than being looked down, was compared to others, especially people that were quite disliked. The countless hours you spent crying and wailing whenever you, quote-unquote, misbehaved and mother said you were Komatsu's spitting image. Maybe if you did this, you wouldn't be like him. Perhaps doing that instead of not wanting to save you from being called his daughter. And so, you were molded, as your mother said, in order to not be called that man's daughter. Though you didn't want to be compared to Tanjiro, you weren't going to throw a tantrum and let them have their way while showing them your discomfort like that. Then you better promise me you'll take care of yourself then. You frowned at Kojiro, who nodded rapidly with a bright smile. With a heavy sigh and attempting at the moment aside, you clasped your hands together. It's settled then. Kojiro, Inosuke, and I will leave while Zenitsu and Nezuko stay and protect the passengers. In case something happens, I will let Zenitsu know. What about Tanjiro? The blonde asked. He's indisposable at the moment, so he's going to stay with the passengers. As soon as things clear out and there is no more danger, he's leaving. You scrunched your nose at Tanjiro, who felt even worse than before. Of course, you didn't care much about it. You unsheathed your sword, looking at everyone else. Let's go. We don't have time to waste. Follow my lead, then, Inosuke proudly called, running off first. Wait! You called, stumbling lightly before chasing after the boar-headed boy. Kojiro followed. The closer you three dashed to the head of the train, the more that a numinous feeling before grew. Strangely, there was not any specific of dust nearby. You three already passed 3 wagons and unsuccessful signs of a demon around. Demon nearby. I know, but where exactly? You thought your teeth. What? You thought your teeth. You said through your teeth. Trying to find at least a trace of the demon. Damn it, the demon's presence is everywhere, in this stuffy-ass place. I hate it, Inosuke growled angrily. Just where the... Yandere, Kojiro alerted fearfully, swifting but gently motivating you backwards as he sliced off the seemed like worm-like lumps of flesh that were directed your way. Inosuke was thrown towards a seat, flying on his rear. As he was violently sat down, the smell of flesh tentacles was horrid, and so was the scene. Yet you were in disgust in, stopping to look at the strange appendants. The way they crumbled apart was enough to let you know it was the demon's deed. This must mean the demon is near, you muttered, like a wasp protecting its hive from intruders. Oh, that was not something too sorry. Scary composition. The red and yellowed hair pillar laughed, watching you walk forward until you stood in front of Inosuke and him, your back facing them. You closed your eyes, placing your sword on your lips, the blade gazing atop, not enough to draw blood. You inhaled quietly, whispering something Inosuke and Kojiro couldn't quite catch, as emerald green mist erupted from your mouth, which quickly swept into your sword and remained there, as if the blade was engulfed by green fire. Never hurts to prepare yourself beforehand. You shrugged and slid a sided smile, looking at Inosuke and Kojiro. Trying not to get too close, though. The poison makes a little too... No, expert when it comes to killing. Are you still poisoned? Inosuke shouted angrily, raising from his seat and stomping his way back to you. Inosuke was informed of what happened, but after the trial and after you left, Tanjiro and Inosuke had quite the hard time trying to convince him to not run off and go murder a former pillar. Okay. She still is, Kojiro joined, yet he sounded scared. Your face became red in embarrassment as you fully faced him. It's a breathing technique. Now focus! It was quite difficult pass to cross. What would normally take then a minute took you you three around 8 minutes because of the many flesh tentacles that quickly attacked and regenerated. It was difficult to even take a step forward. Luckily, I can't say that word, Bishanidiman's breath helped you get rid of most of the gross-looking appendages and delay the regeneration time. Of course, Kojiro didn't fall behind. His flashy and thundering attacks were loud enough to make the tentacles retract and have a harder time trying to make either of you three fall or get injured. Inosuke was more careful with his surroundings while making sure to seem flashy, strong, and badass enough for you to fall for him more. Or praise him, of course, to no avail, for Kojiro made sure to turn your attention away from him as much as possible. It took some more time to reach the head of the train. You exhausted to see the train pilot. Someone pouring coal into the furnace. Hell, even a train attendant, but nothing. No one was there. Ugh, I can't take this, Inosuke yelled angrily. I feel the demon's presence all over me. It's disgusting. But I don't see any more tentacles or a demon, Kojiro spoke, panting softly as he tried to catch his breath. Inosuke might have a point, you hummed, looking around. It does smell kind of off, and even the presence of this place. Exactly, as expected as the sky goddess, Inosuke proudly stated, flustering you again. What is up with the sky goddess obsession? All right, ease it down now. You shook your head, walking around means to try any more leads. It didn't take long. The floorboards beneath you. It wasn't the floor at all. It swashed. It wasn't that obvious, but the sound was too different from regular dry and sturdy forward. Step back. You instructed both men firmly, and them quickly doing as told. You took out your sword and swung with ease. You struck the floor in great speed and force. After seconds, the wood chipped flying around. Your sword got stuck in a big bony structure underneath the train. I think we found our demon, you breathed out. Kojiro and Inosuke stood next to you with each and looked down. Whoa, a giant neck bone, Inosuke said in enthusiasm. I've seen a lot of those, but I've battled almost other animals. So, this means the demon is actually the train, Kojiro hummed, deep in thought. No, it's not the real body. It is fused to the train. It seems so, you hummed, pondering on your change of plans. It will take us a good amount of time to break this bone between us three, but it's not impossible, Tanjiro commented. Unfortunately, the floorboard that protected the bone regenerated quickly, and more tentacles were present. To make matters worse, Blair's and now had hands. They were disgusting to look at. In all honesty, I don't think a good amount of time will be enough. We gotta tell the others, you urged, ushering Kojiro and Inosuke outside the cabin and closing the door with a loud shut. Where are they? Kojiro asked. As they said that, a great commotion was heard atop the train. With a second to waste, the three climbed to the ladder, attached to the wagon train, quickly encountering with Uzui, Hajijin, and Mitsuri battling a demon. The three pillars weren't that far away from you, but the demon standing on the edge of the train's wagon roof, with a sweet and mocking grin. The pinkette was constantly nodding and jolting, meaning she was more prone to the demon's attacks. Uzui hesitated a lot, and his movements were a little too odd. He probably tried not to fall asleep as much as Mitsuri. Of course, Hajijin had no trouble with the demon at all, except for the fact that the demon's head kept going back to its body after being removed clean, and even eventually bursting open. Courtesy of Hajijin. The only added more was your accompanist. Hajijin, Mitsuri-san, Uzui-san, you called, the three pillars turning their heads. I found its weakness. It's the train. The demon's real body is the train. Kitty-chan, Mitsuri cheered. We have to cut the demon's neck. It's the cab, you kept shouting, running hurriedly towards the two closest pillars. I'll buy you time, but hurry. No need, little one, Hajijin replied, destroying a few more tentacles as means to get full focus on you. I'll take care of it. I just need to get these pesky tentacles off. Can you do it now, Tenno-chan? Uzui urged from afar. Go help Tengen. I'll go help Hajijin. Kojiro joined, sword ready. What about me? Inosuke fumed. Protect the passengers. This is too much for Zenitsu and Nezuko to handle, you ordered. Go. Inosuke leapt in between the cabs and wagons, already on his way. Hajijin and Kojiro wasted no more time and left, leaving only Mitsuri and you. The aforementioned female leapt in front of you, slicing clean more tentacles that came your way. Oi, Tenno-chan! The sound pillar came with urge, also dealing with the demon's attacks. I might seem pretty strong because of my flashy looks, but I need your help right now. You want flamboyance? Here's your bloody flamboyance, you shouted in explanation, leaping forward as you twirled and gracefully landed with swift in many places, your hand revolving your sword as if leading a lace with a flow, similar to Mitsuri and Igaro's way of handling a sword, fused with a single technique. The only difference was that the sword didn't twist and bend, rather, or wrist, was the one that changed all the blade's movements. Rivers of blood were carved on the tentacles before breaking deeper, to the point that aforementioned appendages were cut with grand and powerful precision, like small sparkles that erupted into eye-catching and great thundering fireworks. That was the best way to describe your attack. Uzui seemed quite composed at the new attack of yours, for it screamed flamboyancy in every manner. Not bad for the famous God Pillar. Congratulations on your new rise, by the way. The demon said, Who cares? The demon said with a sulky and sick glee, making you look with spite at the demon in the formal attire. I hope you enjoyed the presents Master Muzan left you. The demon was carefully referring to Obito, or mostly Obito's arm. The only part of him that survived after venturing on his own, guiding by the blind of exhaustion and carelessness. You held your soul with a tight grip, trying to control yourself. God's holy tunic. You attacked alongside Mitsuri and Uzui, the light burning the tentacles and blinding the demon momentarily. Your breath was uneven, but you still had your feet on the ground. It seems you're far from thinking from rehabilitation, aren't you? Not every demon seeks light and holiness, Hanua. There's a reason why they are catalysts as such. The demon chuckled, sending more tentacles to Mitsuri, Uzui in your way. Though I expect you to agree with my way of killing, a painless, tranquil death in a wonderful dream you'll never wake up from. Isn't that heavenly? You peregrine mouth, and you glared your teeth, lunging at the demon. Rage of Aruburu Kimai. Kitty-chan, calm down! Alas, and exhausted, the love pillar watched in awe how you angered strength, at you instant of making you lose focus. You danced some sort of angry kagigra as you closed the distance between the demon and yourself. Of course, Mitsuru and Uzui took hold of the opportunity and upped their combat. Strangely, the demon's sleep, including eyes, weren't as poignant as before. Did the demon grow tired, perhaps? Sleep. You blacked out. Your mother stood in front of you, surrounded by darkness. You stupid dumbass of a child. Now your brother. You disgust me. Everything about you is a disgrace. Can't you just disappear from this world? Kitamaru, your father. Crazy, spoiled brat. You deserve to fucking die. The demon smirked sickly, awaiting your face of comfort and despair and grief. Oh, how wrong he was. The sound of your laughter made the demon stop his attacks briefly. This Uzui and Mitsuri stopping in their tracks and looking at you with great worry. What the hell is up with this illusion of yours? Is this supposed to be a nightmare? You're really making me feel right at home. You kept laughing, holding your sword with one hand as you kept your hair away from your face with the other. You looked at the demon with side glare as your head tilted upwards, your laughter easing down. I can break free from those petty little daydreams without a problem. What a pitiful being you are. This irked the demon. Its attacks reassuring. This time they were more random and stronger. Uzui began getting snarled cuts, and Mitsuri was having more trouble keeping up. Oi, Tenwa-chan, careful! Uzui scoffed. Bashidin's breath. The green mist left on your mouth just brushed through the demon's attacks and left an opening big enough for the three of you to slice off the demon's head with ease. Such a bright child, loved by the gods, the demon said in a sing-song tone, never easing his attacks. What wouldn't happen to that kid if you weren't blessed by them? I wonder. You were suddenly brought to a mirage in your mind, watching how a dying, skinny, and palish-haired colored girl protectively hugged a smaller black-haired child that, though he was also skinny, he seemed sick and in pain as well. He wasn't as bad as the girl. She was reduced to bones, her eyes sullen and her skin devoid of color. Her hair was similar to a messy and muck-covered mat of hay, and her clothes were torn and run down. In content, the boy's hair was just slightly messy, and his hair seemed mended oh so little here and there. While the boy's eyes reflected fear and childish innocence, the girl seemed so lifeless and tired, desperate and sad. You were that girl. The boy was Kayaka. The demon watched how you stood still with a lost look as you were stuck in a horrible dream. Tenwa! Kitty-chan! Uzui and Mitsuri was sent flying almost in the edge of the train thanks to one of the flesh appendages, leaving only you standing. Uzui quickly got up and ran after the train as he tried to wake you before the demon could try and harm you. But there was no need. You soon got out of it on your own. You dare use my child in a miserable state to scare me? I can only assume you have a death wish. You spoke coldly, eyes piercing the demon with fierce rage and even a hint of madness. So gods can get mad? The demon mocked with a amused little laugh. But it wasn't long enough, for in a blink of a second, you were face to face with him. The evil and darkness in your eyes was such that the demon felt that it was heavier and scarier than the terrible and fearful presence that moves unirritated. You attacked with the Amaruka Mari rage once more, yet the attack felt more painful. No, painful was a short word. It was extremely agonizing torture. The demon's smile was replaced with a painful wince as his eyes widened as he looked up, almost popping out of their sockets. The demon screamed, were thrilled and loud, but you were too mad to care even a second. "And what made you think they don't?" you said, keeping your eerie tone still. You held your sword in front of the sliced lump of meat, ready to strike. "Let the weight of your sins carry you to hell and torment you until the end of time." The demon's original eyes took around frantically, trying to focus on anything to distract himself from pain. "Karma." And with one word said, you pierced your sword into the demon's body until it went through the train's roof. At the same time, a loud, roaring-like sound erupted. Definitely Kojiro and Hajijin. And indeed they were, for the ear-breaking screech made itself present again when the train's wagon began to shake fiercely. What is going on?" Mitsuri asked worriedly. "We gotta get to safety or else we're going to heaven," Uzui shouted, carrying Mitsuri like a sack of potatoes, and shook you aggressively. "Hey, we're gotta go with the others." My sword, it's stuck," you groaned in frustration, trying to pull your sword off the roof. "Leave it. We gotta go," Uzui urged, grabbing you harshly by your wrist and dragging you away from danger. Tengen descended the ladder as quickly as he could while still holding on to Mitsuri. For who would now how long they had been before on the train had derailed. Kojiro and Hanjin were already waiting next to the ladder. To your dismay, the ladder broke before the sound pillar could reach the ground, and he fell on his rear, Mitsuri falling to her side. Now the broken ladder leaned aside towards the outside of the train. "Tenwa-chan," the red-eyed male called in panic. "Kitty-chan, you gotta jump," Mitsuri urged. "Little one, hurry," Hajijin joined, eyes escorted in desperate and complete fear. His emotions were so clear, desperate. But before you could take a leap, everything and everyone seemed to move in a stop motion. There was no sound, and the train derailed. No pain, no fear, no weight. It was as if you were flying. Everything moved so quickly for you to focus on one single thing, yet it was so slow you could make out figures and patterns. Even amid this situation, you felt oddly at peace. Perhaps the admiration was what kept you in such a calm yet aristocratic state. You could still think rationally, though. Acceleration normally was others unsteady, yet you were pretty composed. "Gods, if this is how you have wished to take me to heaven, then I beg of you to allow everyone else in this train to be safe from any harm. Please consider me that selfish request, O gods," you muttered. "Please fill Kayaka's days with everlasting joy and keep him away from evil's path." Skies, dirt, skies, dirt, skies, dirt again. You were rolling on the ground. How come there was no pain? Finally, you saw the dark purplish sky. You stopped rolling. It seemed there was no noise. You weren't deaf, for the sound of the wind crossing through the tree's leaves before could be heard. Your breath was heard. The hissing of the broken train was alerting as well, but it sounded as light static. Were you the only one survived then? Impossible. You got up, a sharp pain on your lower back making itself feel present. Your forehead and left cheek burnt. You looked around, quickly being greeted with a derailed train that laid on the ground a little too far. It was such a sight that made you speechless. You couldn't believe what was happening, yet there was in a flash. All jokes aside, not too far from you, not even a meter or 4 feet away, laid Kojiro, his face upwards, resting atop a patch of green grass, like you. "Cocoon!" You panic, trying to stand up as you go to his side. Luckily, after a couple of stumbles, you managed to reach him and kneel next to him. You held his callous hands, tears already leaving his eyes. You feared the most that your efforts were all in vain, that it was all you're not. Suddenly, you felt his hands twitch before they held your hands back with such tenderness and love. His eyes opened with struggle, meeting your alertion self and grieving tears. It was a loving scene for him to wake up again and have you being the first thing he sees, despite the wave of pain that engulfed him. As soon as he began regaining composure, as the obvious sadness that your face held. Kojiro, you breathed out shakingly, crying as you caressed the alpha-dimensional male's face. He smiled weakly at you, placing his hand atop your cheek. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Angel-sama, Kojiro said, still smiling. But I'm not planning to go to heaven yet. Oh, you laughed between sniffles, shaking your head. Kojiro joined you in laugh chuckles. With efforts, you helped the flame pillar slowly sit up. Once your laughter eased down enough, Kojiro then began taking deep breaths and exhaling softly, steadying his breathing. I think I've received some damage to my ribs. It's a bit painful to breathe and stay upright, he said in a hum. I'll go get Kayaka's medicine and some bandages then, you urged, but he held your hand in order to stop you. You don't appear to be in good shape either, Kojiro spoke with a concerned tone. You intensely touched your forehead, feeling something wet make contact with your hand. Although you barely gazed your forehead, there was a burning sensation. You looked at your head. You realized it was clear liquid. You simply gazed at your skin. Your cheek was something else, for an open wound had formed close to your mouth. It wasn't deep, but there was quite the amount of blood in it. Aside from the facial injuries, your right foot ached like no other. Not even the rushing pain was painful. Well, that is true, you sighed, sitting down again. I guess I'll heal you then. We still have to clean up too. Kojiro nodded with a smile. His joyous expression was soon brought to an end as he got replaced with a small, choked gasp as his eyes stared at you blankly. His smile was gone as blood was coughed up. Your face began pale and your entire body shook with terror. A black-colored sword was piercing through Kojiro's stomach. So this is the man you replaced me with? A trembling male voice said with grief, his hands grasping the sword with such strength that his veins were noticeable. How long did it take you to change your heart? Tanjiro, what are you doing? Stop! You shouted angrily, about to push Tanjiro away, but he dug his sword deeper. The blade now had its way past Kojiro's clothing and could be noticeable enough. This made you stop your movement, shaking in fear. Tanjiro, stop! You'll kill him! So what? Tanjiro yelled, smiling sickeningly as he glared at you with sad eyes. If he dies, then you'll come back to me, won't you? I'll never be with you after this, you monster! You yelled, back angrily, your raspy voice hurting your throat. Your anger dimmed when Tanjiro's sword dug deeper into Kojiro's wound. Now half the sword was visible. The flame pillar coughed blood. Kojiro was unable to fight against Tanjiro, for if the sword left his body, he would pretty much choke on his own blood and die. Tanjiro seemed to know it as well. If you blinded Tanjiro right at the moment, or even killed him, he would definitely make sure to take Kojiro down with him. There was nothing you could do to it. What the fuck does he have I don't, huh? What makes him better than me? Tanjiro yelled out, voice cracking in raspy sounds. Is it the money? Is it the power? Or is it pleasure? I can give you all that and more, Yin. Just give me one more time. More time? To what? To murder everyone else? To brainwash me and turn me into a brainless little kid? Once again? You spoke with rage and desperate in your tone. We can leave right now if you want, Tanjiro offered, a creepy, hopeful smile forming on his lip. We don't need anyone but ourselves. Nezuko and Kayaka are nothing but leverage. Dead weight. They'll only be an obstacle in our love. You can't believe the words that came out of Tanjiro's mouth. The boy that once valued and cared for every life was now labeling them as useless things. He used to cherish his family like no other, but now Nezuko meant nothing to him. He didn't even acknowledge her existence anymore. Suddenly Tanjiro pushed backwards alongside with his sword. He fell on his back and hit his head harshly, seeing how Kojiro slowly stood up, straggling breaths, and turned around to face Tanjiro. Kojiro, don't! You shouted worried, trying to sit your lover down once again, yet he extended his arms as a sign for you to back away. Your wounds! A small opening could be seen in Kojiro's stomach, blood rapidly staining his clothes. The droplets of the the bright red liquid gushing out of his mouth, soon parting against the ground. The palms of his hands had deep cuts across them. "Go get Uzui and the others," Kojiro said with such calmness as he muttered. He didn't want to show how enraged he was. You complained with a quick nod, running off despite the pain that it made itself present every time you set foot on the ground. The flame pillar then fiercely glared at Tanjiro with madness. "I thought I warned you already to stay away from my lover. Or did my words fall under deaf's ear?" Tanjiro's jaw clenched tightly. He quickly grabbed his sword and stood up, legs trembling, yet he didn't show any signs of backing down. "As if I'd let anyone steal her away from me!" Tanjiro yelled, swinging his sword towards Kojiro aimlessly. His reckless as such that Kojiro needed not his sword to defend it against his miserable attacks. All he had was step aside. "She's mine! Mine! She's always been mine, and she'll always be mine!" With desperate pants and huffs, you looked around, trying to find the pillar. It wasn't until you heard a loud, booming sound erupt from the other side of the train that your question soon got answered. Sadly, there were other plans. "Yinshan!" Zenitsu's voice called out with urge, to which you looked in the direction of his voice came out. He was atop the train wagon, waving his arms quickly. Nezuko was there too, flailing her arms around like a baby bird trying to fly. "Yinshan, we gotta get the passengers out of the train," Zenitsu said. "Didn't you hear Tanjiro is trying to rip up Kojiro's throat apart? Call the pillars!" You shouted desperately. "They're busy. A new demon appeared," Zenitsu replied, climbing off the train quickly and jogging to your side. He panted tiredly. Nezuko cutely climbed off as well, her sandals clattering against the ground. She wasn't as tired as Zenitsu, but she softly huffed here and there. "I don't think we should bother the pillars. I heard they're fighting against an upper moon." "Well, great timing!" You stopped yourself, sighing in frustration while you looked around as if doing so would give you the answers to oh so desperately seek. After some time of breaking your head and battling with your own thoughts, you spoke with a groan. "I'll help you, but we gotta be quick. We'll have to stop Tanjiro ourselves." And so, Zenitsu helped Nezuko, and you climbed to the other side of the train. Alas, and again, so his words were true. Hydrogen, Mitsuri, and Uzui were trying to battle against a single demon on their own. Hydrogen seemed badly injured in one of his arms, while Mitsuri clearly barely stood. Uzui already giving out everything. At least the rock and sound pillar had clearly opening to whatever the demon pushed the pink it aside, as if trying not to fight or even injure her. Or perhaps he viewed her as a weakened or nothing special to waste his time on. If that was the real reason, you would truly have no problem throwing arms, as some of your kabushi would claim to do. Without any more time going to waste, you began dragging out the train, as many people as you could. While carrying 2 kids in your arms, you stumbled on nothing and waited the fall to hit you. But Zenitsu quickly helped you keep your balance, and even carried in his arms one of the children you held. He did his best to prove useful, just like Nezuko, as she managed to get mainly elderly and adults out of the train. Since she also possessed the ability in either mature or decrease her age, it was easy to carry many people at once. At that moment, Inosuke was nowhere to be seen. With care, Zenitsu and you sat on the ground, the last person on the train. A said person laying next to the other passengers away from the danger. Luckily, they had nothing but scrapes and bumps. "They're done," you huffed, rushing to the other side to help Kojiro. Zenitsu and Nezuko following. As soon as you descended the other side, there you were met with a horrifying view. Kojiro knelt on the ground, unharmed, and head proudly faced forward. Tanjiro stood in front of him, sword in hand. "Kojiro!" you screamed in terror, your vocal cords scratching your throat. You could even taste metal in your mouth. Tanjiro went blind, but it didn't stop him from raising his armed hand like a firing signal that would seal not only the ending of the battle, but Kojiro's death. Neither Zenitsu's body nor yourselves refused to act as fast as your minds did, which led to you to watch in horror as the girl with pink eyes and bamboo muzzle was slaughtered by her own brother.